What if I told you? Some people can control your emotions without touching you, without shouting, and without you ever realizing it. Sounds impossible, right? But every single day, millions of people are psychologically manipulated, not through force, but through emotions. Through silence, attention, validation, fear, and human weakness. Social media companies do it. Advertisers do it. Influencers do it. Even ordinary people use psychological tricks without realizing it. And the scariest part? The human brain is surprisingly easy to influence when emotions become stronger than logic. Have you ever wondered why you suddenly miss someone who barely cared about you? Why some people instantly gain your trust? Why certain conversations leave you emotionally exhausted? Or why your brain keeps checking your phone every few minutes, even when there's nothing important there? That isn't random. That is psychology. And tonight, we're exposing 5 dark psychology tricks people secretly use to influence human behavior silently. But remember, this video is not about manipulating others. It's about protecting yourself by understanding how manipulation works. Because once you understand these psychological patterns, you start seeing them everywhere. And after this video, you may never look at people the same way again. Number 1. The power of silence. Most people think powerful individuals are loud. But psychologically, true control often comes from silence. Because silence creates tension, and the human brain hates tension. Whenever a conversation suddenly becomes quiet, the brain instantly tries to escape the discomfort. That's why during awkward silence, people start talking more than they plan to. They explain too much, reveal emotions, expose insecurities. Not because they wanted to, but because silence pressured them psychologically. This technique is used everywhere. In interviews, business negotiations, arguments, relationships, even interrogations. Imagine asking someone a difficult question, then simply staying quiet while maintaining eye contact. Most people immediately become uncomfortable. And in that uncomfortable moment, they start revealing information. Sometimes silence becomes more powerful than words. That's why emotionally intelligent people don't react instantly. They pause. Because reacting emotionally gives away control, but calm silence creates mystery. And mystery attracts attention. Have you ever noticed how the quietest person in a room often feels the most intimidating? That's because humans naturally become curious about emotionally controlled people. Silence signals confidence. It tells others, I don't need to fight for attention. And psychologically, that creates power. But manipulators also use silence in toxic ways. Sometimes people intentionally ignore messages, reply coldly, or disappear suddenly. And the other person becomes emotionally obsessed trying to understand what happened. This is called emotional uncertainty. And uncertainty can become addictive. Because the brain constantly searches for closure. That's why silence can either create wisdom or manipulation. The difference depends on intention. Number 2. Mirroring. The trust hack. Humans naturally trust people who feel familiar. And one of the most powerful psychological tricks ever discovered is mirroring. Mirroring means subtly copying another person's behavior. Their posture, tone of voice, energy, expressions, even speaking speed. And the strange thing is, most people never consciously notice it. But subconsciously, their brain begins feeling comfortable. Because humans associate similarity with safety. That's why best friends slowly start acting alike. Couples begin using the same phrases. Even laughter becomes synchronized. Psychologists discovered that people are more likely to trust individuals who subtly reflect their behavior. And manipulators understand this very well. Some people study your personality carefully, then become exactly what you emotionally connect with. If you love deep emotional conversations, they become emotional. If you admire confidence, they appear confident. If you feel lonely, they become your perfect understanding person. And because they seem perfect for you, trust forms quickly. But sometimes, the personality you fell in love with wasn't real. It was psychological adaptation, a reflection designed to gain emotional access. That's why some people completely change after gaining your trust. Because maintaining a fake personality becomes exhausting. And eventually, the real behavior appears. This is why emotionally aware people pay attention to consistency, not charm. Because charm can be created, but consistency reveals truth. And if this video is making you see people differently already, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video. Because understanding psychology might protect you from manipulation one day. Now let's continue. Number 3. Attention control. Whatever controls your attention, slowly controls your reality. Because attention shapes emotion, and emotion shapes behavior. That's why modern technology fights aggressively for every second of your focus. Every notification, every short video, every bright color. It was designed to keep your brain stimulated. Psychologists call this dopamine conditioning. Every notification creates anticipation, and anticipation releases dopamine inside the brain. Over time, your mind becomes addicted to stimulation. That's why many people unlock their phones automatically without thinking. Not because they need something important, but because their brain was trained to crave stimulation. And distracted minds are easier to influence. Because when attention becomes weak, critical thinking becomes weak too. That's why emotional content spreads faster online than logical information. Fear spreads fast. Anger spreads fast. Drama spreads fast. Because emotion captures attention instantly. And once attention is captured, influence becomes easier. That's why social media algorithms prioritize emotional reactions. The longer you stay emotional, the longer you stay engaged. And the longer you stay engaged, the more controllable your attention becomes. Number 4. Scarcity and emotional addiction. Humans naturally value things that feel rare. The less available something becomes, the more valuable it appears. This is called scarcity psychology. That's why companies constantly use phrases like limited edition, only 2 left, offer ending soon. Because the fear of losing something is psychologically stronger than the desire to gain it. But manipulators use scarcity emotionally too. They disappear randomly, reply late intentionally, act emotionally unavailable. And suddenly, the other person becomes emotionally attached. Not because the connection is healthy, but because uncertainty creates obsession. The brain starts chasing validation. And the more inconsistent someone becomes, the more emotionally addictive they may feel. This creates emotional dependency. The victim begins overthinking everything. Why did they change? Did I do something wrong? Why are they acting distant? And while the victim becomes emotionally anxious, the manipulator gains control through uncertainty. That's why emotionally mature people avoid confusing behavior. Because healthy relationships create peace, not emotional chaos. Before we reveal the final psychological technique, comment below which trick shocked you the most so far. And if you're still watching till this point, you already think differently than most people. And finally, number 5. Emotional manipulation. The strongest way to influence humans is emotion. Because emotions move faster than logic. When people become emotional, they stop thinking clearly. That's why fear spreads quickly online. That's why anger becomes viral. And that's why manipulators focus on feelings instead of facts. Some people use guilt to control others. Some use praise and validation. Some create fear and insecurity. Over time, repeated emotional pressure slowly changes behavior. And eventually, emotional dependency forms. But emotionally aware people recognize these patterns. They pause before reacting. They question emotional pressure. And they protect their peace instead of chasing emotional chaos. Because the hardest person to manipulate is someone who understands their own emotions. And once you become emotionally aware, psychological manipulation loses its power over you. So the next time someone tries to control your emotions, pay attention carefully. Notice the silence. Notice the emotional pressure. Notice the manipulation hidden behind attention, validation, fear, and uncertainty. Because once you understand psychology, you stop reacting automatically. You begin observing patterns instead of chasing emotions. And that awareness changes everything. Because the strongest minds are not emotionless, they are emotionally aware. And the moment you truly understand how manipulation works is the moment it starts losing power over you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous manipulation is the one that feels like love.